Close your eyes for a moment and picture something with me. You're standing in complete darkness. Not the kind of dark you get when you turn off your bedroom light. I mean total, absolute blackness. The kind where you can't see your hand even when you hold it right in front of your face. Now imagine you hear something. A crack. A rustle. Heavy breathing that isn't yours. Your heart starts pounding. Your muscles tense up. Every sound becomes huge in your mind. This wasn't a scary movie. This was every single night for our ancient relatives. The people who lived thousands of years before us faced this terror constantly. And tonight, I'm going to tell you how they turned that fear into the holiday we celebrate today. Before we begin this journey together, I want to ask you something. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoy stories about where our traditions come from. It really helps this channel grow, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from right now. Last week, someone said they were playing this while camping in Norway. Another person was listening during a late-night drive through Texas. I love knowing there are people all over the world in their own little circles of light, hearing these stories together. Now, let's travel back in time, way back. Further than your grandparents, further than ancient Egypt, further than anything you learned about in school. We're going to Africa 2 million years ago to meet the ancestors who accidentally invented Halloween. Chapter 1. The night that changed everything. The year is 2 million years ago, give or take a few 100,000 years. Africa looks nothing like it does today. Huge grassland stretch as far as you can see, giant animals roam everywhere. Elephants the size of trucks, cats with teeth like knives, birds bigger than people, and walking among them a small group of creatures that look almost human. They stand upright. They use simple tools. They are called Homo erectus, and they're about to discover something that will change everything. These early humans are scared, really scared, because when the sun goes down, they become prey. Think about that for a second. Every sunset meant danger. Lions could see in the dark. Hyenas hunted in packs at night. Leopards dropped from trees without warning. And humans, we could barely see anything once the light faded. So what did they do? They huddled together. They found caves or thick bushes. They held stone tools and hoped nothing found them before morning. But then something amazing happened. Lightning struck a dead tree. The tree caught fire, and instead of running away, one curious human crept closer. The fire was warm, the fire was bright, and most importantly, when animals came near, they stayed back. They were afraid of the flames. That human grabbed a burning branch, carried it back to the group, and for the first time in history, humans had their own light in the darkness. Now here's where it gets interesting for our Halloween story. Fire didn't just keep animals away, it changed how humans thought about the night. Before fire, darkness was an enemy you couldn't fight. After fire, darkness became something you could push back. You could create a circle of safety, a bubble of light in an ocean of black. But fire did something else too, something nobody expected. When you sit around a fire at night, the flames make shadows dance on the walls. They flicker and move, they look alive, and our ancient relatives sitting there in the dim light started seeing shapes in those shadows. Was that shadow a person, an animal, a spirit? They didn't know, but they started imagining. And humans are incredibly good at imagining things. Scientists believe this is when storytelling began. Someone would point at a shadow and say, "That's the spirit of the hunt," or "That's my grandfather who died last winter." They'd start talking about these shadows like they were real. They weren't being superstitious or foolish, they were being smart. Humans learn through stories. If you can tell a story about why thunder happens or where Grandpa's spirit went, Suddenly the scary unknown world makes sense. Fire gave us the first theatre, the first ghost stories, the first time humans sat together, looked into the darkness beyond the light, and tried to explain what was out there. Does this sound familiar? It should, because every Halloween party, every campfire story, every horror movie is doing the exact same thing. We're sitting in our circle of light, looking at shadows and telling stories about what hides in the dark. Here's something that might surprise you. Archaeologists have found ancient fire pits that are over 1 million years old. Inside caves in South Africa, they discovered layers of ash that prove humans were burning fires on purpose, controlling them, keeping them alive through the night. These weren't accidental fires. These were carefully tended flames. Someone had the job of keeping the fire going, because if it went out, the darkness came back, and with the darkness came terror. The people who tended these fires became important, special. They were protecting the whole group. In a way, they were the first heroes, the first people who stood between their tribe and the night. And when someone died, the group would sometimes place their body near the fire. They'd cover it with red powder called ochre. They'd arrange stones around it. This wasn't just disposing of a body. This was ceremony. This was respect. Why red powder? Because red looks like fire, like blood, like life. They were trying to give their dead person some of that fire magic, some of that protection against the darkness. If you think about it, this is exactly what we do on Halloween. We light candles. We put glowing pumpkins on our porches. We're creating little fires that push back the October darkness. We're doing the same thing our relatives did 1 million years ago. Make sure you stick around, because coming up next, we're going to discover what happened when fire and imagination combined to create the first monsters. Chapter 2. When fire became magic. Now that humans had fire, something unexpected started happening. Their brains began changing. Not changing like growing bigger overnight, changing slowly over thousands and thousands of years. Fire gave humans more calories because they could cook food. Cooked food is easier to digest. Easier digestion meant their bodies could spend more energy on growing bigger brains. Bigger brains meant more imagination, more questions, more curiosity about the world, and more fear. Here's something interesting about human brains. We're the only animals who can be afraid of things that haven't happened yet. A deer runs when it sees a lion, but humans, we can lie awake at night worrying about lions that might show up tomorrow, or next week, or never. This ability to imagine future danger kept us alive. If you can picture all the bad things that might happen, you can prepare for them, you can make plans, you can survive, but it also made the darkness scarier. Because now, when humans sat around their fires, they didn't just worry about the sounds they heard, they worried about sounds they might hear. They imagined all kinds of creatures lurking just beyond the light. And this is when the first monsters were born. Not real monsters, imaginary ones, the kind that lived in stories. Think about the scariest Halloween creatures. Vampires, werewolves, ghosts, zombies. Where did they come from? They came from ancient humans trying to explain the unexplainable. From people sitting around fires, looking at shadows and letting their powerful imaginations run wild. Let's talk about ghosts first. Why do almost all cultures believe in ghosts? Because death is confusing. When someone you love dies, they're just gone. Their body is there, but the person isn't. They don't talk, they don't move, they don't laugh at your jokes anymore. Where did they go? Ancient humans noticed that when people sleep, they look dead. They lie still, they don't respond. But then they wake up and tell stories about dreams, about seeing dead relatives, about travelling to strange places. So our ancestors developed a theory. Maybe people have two parts, the body and something else, a spirit, a soul, something that can leave the body and travel around. When you sleep, your spirit wanders. When you die, your spirit leaves forever. But what if it doesn't leave completely? What if it stays nearby? What if on certain nights dead spirits come back to visit? This wasn't a scary thought at first. It was comforting. It meant death wasn't the end. It meant Grandma was still around somehow, watching over you. But then humans had another thought. What about spirits who aren't your grandma? What about angry spirits? Forgotten spirits? Spirits who died badly and want revenge? Now ghosts became something to fear, something to protect against. This is why thousands of years later, people started carving scary faces into vegetables. They were trying to scare away the bad spirits. Fight fear with fear. Let's talk about another Halloween favourite, monsters that transform. Werewolves are the most famous, but every culture has stories about people who turn into animals. Where did this idea come from? From watching shamans. From watching special people in the tribe who would dress in animal skins, put on masks and act like animals during ceremonies. These shamans weren't pretending for fun. They were trying to connect with the animal's spirit, to understand it, to borrow its power. When you're hunting a deer, it helps to think like a deer, to imagine what the deer sees and smells and fears. Shamans would become the deer for a while. They'd dance like it, move like it, and when they came back to being human, they'd have new knowledge, new hunting strategies. But to everyone watching, especially children, it looked like magic. It looked like this person had actually become an animal and then turned back. Over time, these ceremony memories turned into stories about people who could transform. People who were dangerous because they were half human, half beast. And those stories eventually became werewolf legends. Here's what fascinates me. Every Halloween tradition we have connects back to these ancient fears and ceremonies. The costumes, from shamans and people disguising themselves to confuse spirits. The trick-or-treating. From leaving food outside to feed wandering ghosts. The jack-o'-lanterns. From fires that protected against the darkness. We're not doing anything new. We're doing what humans have done for hundreds of thousands of years. We're taking our fear of the unknown and turning it into something we can control, something we can even laugh at. If you're enjoying this journey through time, do me a favour and hit the like button. It tells YouTube that this video is worth recommending to other people who love history and Halloween. Coming up next, we're jumping forward to meet the Neanderthals, our close cousins who had their own fascinating relationship with death and darkness. Chapter 3, The First Storyteller. Let's jump ahead to about 200,000 years ago. A new type of human has appeared, Neanderthals. For a long time, people thought Neanderthals were dumb brutes, cavemen who grunted and hit things with clubs, but we've learned this is completely wrong. Neanderthals were smart, really smart. They made complex tools, they created art, they cared for sick and injured group members, they buried their dead with flowers and valuable items. That last part is crucial for our Halloween story. Neanderthals didn't just bury dead bodies to get rid of them. They performed rituals. They prepared the dead for some kind of journey. Archaeologists have found Neanderthal graves that are over 50,000 years old. In these graves, they found amazing things. Flowers arranged around bodies, deer antlers placed on chests, red ochre powder covering bones, stone tools buried alongside the person. Why would they do this? Because Neanderthals believed death wasn't an ending, it was a transition. The dead person was going somewhere, and they needed supplies for the journey. This belief shows up in every human culture that came after. Ancient Egyptians filled tombs with food and treasures. Vikings buried warriors with weapons and ships. Native Americans placed favorite belongings in graves. The message was always the same: you're going on a journey and we want you to be prepared. But here's what makes this Halloween relevant. If the dead are going on a journey, maybe they can come back. Maybe on special nights, when the barrier between worlds is thin, dead spirits return to visit. And if they're coming back, we should welcome them, feed them, remember them, make them feel at home. This is the emotional heart of Halloween and similar holidays around the world. It's not about being scared of the dead, it's about staying connected to them, about refusing to forget the people we loved. Let me tell you about one specific Neanderthal burial that gives me chills every time I think about it. In a cave in Iraq called Shanidar Cave, archaeologists found the skeleton of a Neanderthal man who lived about 60,000 years ago. When they analysed the soil around his bones, they found something remarkable. Pollen. Lots and lots of flower pollen. Someone had covered this man's grave with flowers, bright, colourful blooms. They'd arranged them carefully, almost like a garden. Can you imagine that scene? A group of Neanderthals standing around a body of someone they loved. They're sad. They're grieving. So they gather flowers from the hills around the cave. They bring them back and cover their friend in beauty. They're saying, "You mattered, you were loved, and we'll remember you." That's the same impulse that makes us visit graves with flowers today. That makes us light candles for the dead. That makes us tell stories about people who are gone. Halloween taps into this ancient human need. For one night we acknowledge death, we invite the dead to be remembered. We make room for them in our lives again. Now let's talk about Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors. We showed up about 300,000 years ago, and we brought storytelling to a whole new level. Homo sapiens could do something special with language. We could talk about things that didn't exist. We could describe dreams, imagine the future, create elaborate myths. Around 70,000 years ago, something incredible happened. Scientists call it the cognitive revolution. Human brains seemed to level up all at once. Suddenly, we were making jewelry, painting caves, carving statues, and creating complex tools. But most importantly, we were telling stories. Big, complicated stories about gods and spirits and heroes and monsters. These stories did something practical. They helped humans cooperate in large groups. If everyone believes the same story about right and wrong, about gods and spirits, about what happens after death, then thousands of people can work together, even if they've never met. Stories became the glue that held civilization together. And what were the most popular stories? Stories about darkness, about death, about the mysterious forces that controlled life. In France, there's a cave called Chauvet. On its walls, artists painted incredible images over 30,000 years ago. Lions, mammoths, bears, rhinoceroses. The paintings are so good, they look almost alive. But here's the spooky part. These paintings are deep inside the cave. You have to walk through narrow passages, crawl through tight spaces, and descend into complete darkness to reach them. The artists worked by the torchlight. The flames would have made the painted animals flicker and move. Can you imagine being in that cave? The darkness pressing in from all sides, the only light coming from your torch, and there on the wall, a giant lion that seems to breathe and step forward in the firelight. It must have felt magical, supernatural, like the wall was a doorway to another world where animal spirits lived. These caves weren't art galleries, they were temples, places where humans went to connect with something larger than themselves, to face the darkness and come back changed. Does this remind you of anything? How about a haunted house? You pay money to walk through darkness, to face scary things, to scream and laugh and eventually emerge back into safety. We're doing the same thing our ancestors did in those painted caves. We're using controlled fear to feel more alive. I've got a question for you. Have you ever been to a really good haunted house? Drop a comment and tell me about it. What scared you the most? Stay with me, because in the next chapter, we're going to discover how seasons and the changing year created the perfect time for honouring the dead. Chapter 4, Lessons of the Soul. Around 10,000 years ago, something revolutionary happened. Humans invented farming. Instead of following herds of animals and gathering wild plants, people started planting seeds, growing crops, staying in one place. This changed everything about how humans understood the world. Because when you're a farmer, you become obsessed with seasons. You need to know exactly when to plant, when to water, when to harvest. One mistake and your family starves. So humans started watching the sky very carefully. They tracked the sun, the moon, the stars. They noticed that the same patterns repeated every year. Long days in summer, short days in winter, spring brought life, fall brought death, and here's where Halloween's timing becomes important. In the Northern Hemisphere, late October and early November mark a transition. The harvest is finished. The days are getting shorter. The temperature is dropping. Green, leaves turn red and gold, then fall to the ground and die. To ancient farmers, this felt like the world was dying. Every year, the earth seemed to fall asleep. Plants withered, animals disappeared. The sun barely rose above the horizon before setting again. It was terrifying. What if this time the sun didn't come back? What if spring never returned? What if the world stayed frozen forever? So humans created rituals. Ways to help the sun return, ways to make sure spring would come again. They lit huge bonfires to give strength to the weakening sun. They slaughtered animals to feed the gods. They prayed and sang and danced. And because this was the time when the world seemed closest to death, they believed it was also when dead spirits were closest to the living. Think about it. The boundary between life and death was blurring everywhere. Plants were dying, animals were dying, the sun itself seemed to be dying. So maybe, just maybe, the barrier between the living world and the world of the dead was thin right now. This is when the dead would return, not to scare people, but to visit, to check on their families, to see how things were going. Cultures all over the world developed similar beliefs. In Mexico, late October and early November became Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. In China, there's the Hungry Ghost Festival. In Japan, Obon, different names, different customs, but the same basic idea. At this time of year, the dead come back and we should welcome them. The Celts, who lived in Ireland, Scotland and northern France, called this time Samhain. It was their New Year's Eve, the night when the old year died and the new year was born. On Samhain, the Celts believed the walls between worlds collapsed. Spirits could cross over. Fairies could steal people away. The whole world became magical and dangerous. So what did they do? They lit bonfires, huge ones. On every hilltop, flames reached toward the sky. These fires served multiple purposes. First, they honoured the sun and encouraged it to return when they kept evil spirits away. Third, they provided light for dead ancestors to find their way home. Families would leave food outside their doors, bread, milk, meat, a meal for any spirit that passed by. This wasn't scary. This was hospitality. You don't want spirits to be hungry. Hungry spirits might get angry. Fed spirits would bless your home and protect you through winter. Young people would disguise themselves in costumes made from animal skins. Why? Because if evil spirits were wandering around, you didn't want them to recognize you. You wanted to blend in, become invisible, or look scary enough that even spirits would leave you alone. Does this sound familiar? Bonfires, costumes, leaving food out. We're still doing these things. We've just updated them for modern times. Let me tell you something that might blow your mind. Every single Halloween tradition connects to ancient farming rituals. Pumpkins, they're harvest vegetables. We carve them because ancient people carved turnips to hold candles that would guide spirits home. Candy, it replaced the bread and milk left for spirits. Instead of feeding ghosts, we feed children dressed as ghosts. Costumes, from disguising yourself to hide from evil spirits. Bobbing for apples, ancient fortune-telling games that predicted who you'd marry or how long you'd live. Even the colours we associate with Halloween, orange and black, come from harvest time. Orange for the autumn leaves and harvest crops, black for the coming darkness of winter. Here's something most people don't know. The jack-o'-lantern has a specific origin story. Irish legend tells of a man named Stingy Jack who tricked the devil multiple times. When Jack died, heaven wouldn't take him because he'd been too mean. But hell wouldn't take him either because he'd outsmarted the devil, so Jack was stuck wandering the earth forever. The devil threw him a burning coal to light his way. Jack carved out a turnip, put the coal inside, and became Jack of the Lantern. Jack-o'-lantern. People carved turnips and later pumpkins to remember Jack, but also to create lights that would scare away evil spirits. A face in the darkness, a flame that never goes out. If you're starting to see how all these pieces connect, hit that subscribe button. We're only halfway through this journey, and trust me, the best parts are still coming. Up next, how Christianity tried to erase Halloween and accidentally made it even more popular. Chapter 5. The Celtic Connection. Let's dive deeper into the Celtic festival of Samhain, because this is where Halloween really takes shape. The Celts weren't one unified group. There were many different tribes spread across Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and parts of France and Spain. But they shared similar beliefs and celebrated similar festivals. To the Celts, time wasn't a straight line like we think of it today. Time was a wheel, a circle. Everything that happened would happen again. Birth, growth, death, rebirth, over and over forever. The year was divided into two halves, the light half from May to October, and the dark half from November to April. Samhain, on October 31st, was the hinge between these halves, the moment when one died and the other was born. This made it the most magical night of the year, a night when impossible things became possible. The Celts believed that on Samhain, the Cid opened. The Cid were mounds or hills where fairies and spirits lived. Normally these mounds were sealed, but on Samhain they opened up, and supernatural beings poured out into the human world. This was dangerous. Fairies in Celtic mythology aren't cute little Tinkerbell creatures. They're powerful, unpredictable beings. They might bless you, or they might curse you, or they might steal you away to their underground kingdom where you'd be trapped forever. So the Celts took precautions. They wore costumes and masks so the fairies wouldn't recognize them. They carried torches to keep evil spirits at bay. They left offerings of food to show respect. But Samhain wasn't just about fear. It was also about celebration. The harvest was finished. All the food was stored for winter. Cattle were brought down from the hills. Some animals were slaughtered because there wasn't enough food to keep them alive through winter. This meant fresh meat, fresh blood. A feast. Celtic families would gather in their homes or in community halls. They'd roast meat, drink ale, tell stories, play games. Music would fill the air. Laughter and conversation would last long into the night. But every so often someone would glance at the door. Was that a sound outside? Was something scratching at the walls? The fear was real, but so was the togetherness, and that's what made Samhain special. It was a night when families came together to face the darkness as a group. The Druids, Celtic priests, performed special ceremonies on Samhain. They would build huge bonfires on hilltops. Everyone from surrounding villages would come. They'd bring cattle and sometimes make sacrifices, offering animals to the gods in exchange for protection through winter. These weren't cruel rituals. Remember, the Celts lived close to death. Animals died to feed them. People died from cold or hunger or disease. Death was part of life. Honoring it made sense. The Druids would read the future in the flames. They'd interpret signs. They'd tell people what to expect in the coming year. This wasn't superstition to the Celts. This was practical advice from people who understood the patterns of nature. At the end of the night, each family would take a burning ember from the communal bonfire back to their home. They'd use it to light their own hearth fire. This flame would burn all winter long, connecting their home to the community and to the sacred fire of Samhain. If a family's hearth fire went out during winter, it was considered terrible luck. It meant the spirits had abandoned them. They'd have to ask a neighbour for fire, which was embarrassing and showed weakness. Now here's a question that always gets debated. Was Samhain scary or fun? The answer is both. Think about modern Halloween. Is it scary? Yes. Is it fun? Also yes. Those two feelings exist together. The thrill of fear mixed with the safety of celebration. That's what Samhain was. It acknowledged real dangers, real fears, real death. But it also brought people together. It created community. It reminded everyone that they weren't alone in the darkness. I want to share something controversial that not everyone agrees with. Some historians say Halloween is completely made up by modern commercialism, that ancient people weren't really celebrating anything like what we do today. But I disagree. When you look at the evidence, at burial sites and sacred fires and seasonal festivals, the connection is clear. We're doing the same things our ancestors did. We've just changed the packaging. What do you think? Is Halloween a real ancient tradition or a modern invention? Leave a comment and let me know. In our next chapter, we're going to see what happened when Christianity arrived in Celtic lands. The battle between old beliefs and new faith created something nobody expected. Chapter 6. When Saints Met Spirits. Around 400 CE, Christianity began spreading through Ireland and other Celtic lands. Missionaries arrived with a new religion, new beliefs, new rules, and they had a problem. The Celts loved Samhain. They'd been celebrating it for thousands of years. It was woven into their culture. Getting them to stop would be nearly impossible. So the Christian church made a smart decision. Instead of banning Samhain, they would transform it. They'd pour new wine into old bottles, so to speak. In 609 CE, Pope Boniface IV declared May 13th as All Saints' Day, a day to honour Christian martyrs and saints. But over time, the church moved this holiday. By 835 CE, Pope Gregory IV had shifted All Saints' Day to November 1st. Why that date? To overlap with Samhain, the church was creating a Christian alternative to the pagan festival. November 1st became All Saints' Day or All Hallows' Day. Hallow is an old word for saint. The night before, October 31st, became All Hallows' Eve. Say that quickly and it becomes Halloween. The church added another day too. November 2nd became All Souls' Day, a time to pray for all dead people, not just saints. So now you had 3 days. October 31st, All Hallows' Eve. November 1st, All Saints' Day. November 2nd, All Souls' Day. Together, these became known as Hallowtide. The church hoped people would forget the old pagan traditions and embrace the new Christian ones. But here's what actually happened. People blended them. They still lit bonfires, but now they said it was to honour Christian saints. They still wore costumes, but now they dressed as saints and angels instead of fairies and ghosts. They still left food out, but now they called it soul cakes and said it was for praying Christians, not wandering spirits. In fact, souling became a popular Halloween tradition. Poor people would go door to door on November 1st and 2nd, offering to pray for dead relatives in exchange for soul cakes. They'd sing, a soul cake, please good Mrs., a soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, 3 for him who made us all." Does this sound familiar? It's trick-or-treating. The practice of going door to door and getting food in exchange for something, a prayer, a song, or in modern times, just being cute in a costume. The church also introduced the idea that some spirits might be in purgatory, a place between heaven and hell. These spirits needed prayers to help them move on. Lighting candles and saying prayers on All Souls' Day could rescue a spirit from purgatory and send it to heaven. This gave people a way to help their dead loved ones. It made the connection between living and dead feel active. You weren't just remembering the dead, you were helping them. But not all the old traditions could be Christianized. Some were too wild, too pagan, too fun. In rural areas, especially in Ireland and Scotland, Samhain traditions continued alongside Christian ones. Young people would cause mischief on Halloween night. They'd move gates, tip over outhouses, or play pranks on neighbours. This was called going a souling, or later, going a mumming. It wasn't mean-spirited, it was release. All year long you followed rules, you worked hard, you behaved. But on Halloween, you could break the rules a little bit. The boundaries were looser, the world was turned upside down, the church didn't like this. They tried to make Halloween more serious and solemn, more about prayer and less about parties. But the people had other ideas. They loved the excitement, the mystery, the excuse to eat, drink, and celebrate before winter locked them indoors for months. Here's something interesting. In Protestant areas, where the Reformation rejected Catholic traditions, All Saints' Day lost its religious importance. But Halloween remained. People kept celebrating it as a secular harvest festival. This is crucial for understanding how Halloween survived. It wasn't tied to any one religion. It were bigger than that. It was cultural, emotional, human. Different regions developed their own Halloween customs. In Scotland, people would carve turnips into lanterns and carry them through the streets. In Ireland, they'd play fortune-telling games to predict marriages and deaths. In Wales, they'd tell ghost stories around the fire. Let me share a story that shows how seriously people took Halloween in Old Ireland. There was a belief that if you sat at a crossroads on Halloween night, you could see ghosts of everyone who would die in the coming year pass by. People who were brave or foolish enough to do this would report seeing friends, neighbours, and sometimes even themselves in the procession. Can you imagine sitting alone at a dark crossroads, waiting to see death parade past? This tradition shows something important. Halloween wasn't entertainment, it was meaningful. It was a night when you confronted mortality, when you faced the reality that everyone, including you, would eventually die. That's heavy stuff. But it's also freeing. If you accept death, really accept it, then life becomes more precious. Every moment matters more. What do you think happens after we die? It's one of humanity's oldest questions, and Halloween is the night we allow ourselves to wonder about it. Share your thoughts in the comments, I always read them. Coming up, how Irish immigrants brought Halloween to America and turned it into the candy-filled costume party we know today. Chapter 7. Across the Ocean. In the 1840s, Ireland faced a catastrophe. The potato crop failed. People called it the Great Famine. Over 1 million Irish people died from starvation and disease. Another 1 million fled to other countries, looking for a chance to survive. Many came to America, and they brought Halloween with them. But America was different from Ireland. It was bigger, more diverse, full of people from different countries with different traditions. The Irish immigrants held on to their Halloween customs. They carved jack-o'-lanterns, though now they used pumpkins instead of turnips because pumpkins were easier to find. They told ghost stories. They played pranks. At first, other Americans didn't know what to make of this strange holiday. Halloween wasn't widely celebrated in America before the Irish arrived. It was seen as a rowdy, somewhat superstitious tradition, but slowly, Halloween began to spread. Other immigrant groups added their own traditions. German immigrants brought customs about good luck and fortune-telling. Scottish immigrants contributed games and songs. By the late 1800s, Halloween was becoming an American holiday. But it was wild and unstructured. Teenagers played increasingly dangerous pranks. They'd overturn wagons, block roads, damage property. Some communities wanted to ban Halloween entirely. Then something clever happened. Community leaders decided to tame Halloween by organizing it. They started throwing Halloween parties. Schools held Halloween celebrations. Churches hosted Halloween events with games and food. The goal was to take the mischief out of Halloween and turn it into wholesome family fun. It worked, sort of. Halloween became less about vandalism and more about entertainment. The early 1900s saw Halloween transform into a night specifically for children. Women's magazines published articles about how to throw Halloween parties. Stores started selling Halloween decorations. Costumes became more elaborate. This is when Halloween imagery really took shape. Black cats, witches on broomsticks, smiling jack-o'-lanterns, ghosts saying boo. The scary stuff was softened, made cute, commercialized. But then came the Great Depression. Money was tight. Families struggled. Halloween celebrations became smaller. The focus shifted to inexpensive homemade costumes and simple parties. During World War II, sugar was rationed. Candy companies couldn't make much product. Trick-or-treating, which had just started becoming popular, nearly died out. But after the war ended, Halloween came roaring back. The 1950s saw Halloween explode in popularity. Post-war prosperity meant families could afford store-bought costumes. Candy was available again. Suburbs were spreading, creating safe neighborhoods where children could go door to door. Television boosted Halloween too. Shows featured Halloween specials. Commercials advertised candy and costumes. Halloween became part of American pop culture. Trick-or-treating became standardized. Children would dress up, go door to door, say trick or treat, and receive candy. It was wholesome, safe, fun for everyone. Well, mostly safe. In the 1970s and 80s, urban legends spread about poisoned candy and razor blades in apples. Most of these stories turned out to be hoaxes, but they scared parents. Some communities tried to move Halloween indoors, hosting trunk-or-treat events in parking lots. But traditional trick-or-treating survived because people loved it. There's something magical about children walking through the dark, knocking on doors, encountering friendly neighbors. It builds community. It teaches social skills. It's fun. By the late 20th century, Halloween had become America's second largest commercial holiday after Christmas. People spent billions on costumes, candy, and decorations. Adults started celebrating too. Halloween parties weren't just for kids anymore. Haunted houses became elaborate attractions. Horror movies were released every October. Halloween had become a cultural phenomenon. Here's what I find fascinating. Halloween in America became something new. It kept elements of Samhain and Hallowtide, but it also became distinctly American. Commercial, optimistic, fun first, spooky second. In Ireland, Halloween remained more traditional, more connected to its roots. In Mexico, Dia de los Muertos kept its deep spiritual meaning. But in America, Halloween became entertainment. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. Every culture adapts traditions to fit their needs. Americans needed a holiday that was fun and brought people together. Halloween became that holiday. Let me ask you something. What's your favourite Halloween memory from childhood? Was it a great costume? A scary haunted house? Getting a huge haul of candy? Drop a comment and share your story. In our next chapter, we're going to explore how Halloween influenced horror movies and how horror movies influenced Halloween. It's a fascinating cycle that's still happening today. Chapter 8. The Modern Monster. Modern Monster. In 1978, a movie changed Halloween forever. It was called simply Halloween. Directed by John Carpenter, the film told the story of Michael Myers, a masked killer who stalks teenagers on Halloween night. It was scary, really scary, and it became a massive hit. Halloween the movie wasn't the first horror film, obviously, but it connected itself specifically to the holiday. It used Halloween night as its setting. The masks, the darkness, the sense that evil was walking freely because the barriers were down. After Halloween's success, dozens of horror movies came out that were set on or around Halloween. The holiday became synonymous with horror. This created an interesting loop. Horror movies made Halloween scarier, and scarier Halloweens made people want to watch more horror movies. Think about it. Before the 1970s, Halloween decorations were mostly cute. Friendly ghosts, smiling pumpkins, cartoon witches, but after movies like Halloween, The Exorcist, and Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween decorations became genuinely creepy. Now you can buy decorations that look like corpses, realistic wounds, zombies crawling out of graves, chainsaws, blood, gore. Some people love it, others think it's too much, that Halloween has become too dark and lost its fun innocence. But here's my take. Halloween has always been about confronting fear. The Celts weren't dressing up as cute fairies, they were disguising themselves from dangerous spirits. They were acknowledging real terror. Modern Halloween is just more honest about that fear. We're not hiding it behind cartoon images anymore. We're embracing it fully. Horror movies taught us that being scared can be enjoyable. When you watch a scary movie, your body goes through real fear responses. Your heart races, your muscles tense, adrenaline floods your system, but your brain knows you're safe. You're on your couch. The monsters aren't real, so you get to experience fear without actual danger. It's thrilling. This is exactly what ancient humans did with their rituals. They created controlled situations where they could confront fear safely. Sit around the fire, tell scary stories, feel the fear, but know you're surrounded by your tribe. Halloween has become our modern ritual for this. We seek out fear deliberately. Haunted houses, horror movies, scary costumes. We want to feel that adrenaline rush, and there's evidence this is healthy. Psychologists have found that people who watch horror movies and visit haunted houses report feeling more confident afterward. They've faced something scary and survived. Even though it wasn't real danger, their brain still gives them credit for being brave. This might be why Halloween has exploded in popularity in recent decades. Modern life is safe but also stressful. We face abstract threats like job insecurity and climate change. These are scary, but we can't fight them directly. Halloween gives us concrete fears. A zombie, a ghost, a killer in a mask. Things we can face and defeat by turning on the lights or leaving the haunted house. It's cathartic, cleansing. It helps us process the ambient anxiety of modern life. Here's something that might surprise you. Halloween is becoming popular in countries that never celebrated it before. Japan has massive Halloween celebrations in Tokyo. China's young people throw Halloween parties. Even some countries with strong religious cultures are embracing secular Halloween fun. Why is it spreading? Because Halloween offers something universal. A night where you can play with identity, where you can be someone else, where you can face fear safely, where you can gather with others and celebrate life by acknowledging death. Every culture understands the power of masks and costumes. Every culture has stories about spirits and the afterlife. Halloween packages these universal human experiences into one exciting night. But Halloween is also controversial. Some religious groups object to it, saying it celebrates evil or the occult. Some cultures see it as American imperialism, an unwanted foreign holiday being pushed on them. And there are valid critiques. Halloween has become very commercial. Companies make billions selling stuff we don't really need. The holiday can feel more about consumption than connection, but underneath all the commercial noise, the original purpose remains. Halloween is about community. It's about facing darkness together. It's about remembering that life is precious because it doesn't last forever. That's why, despite all the changes, Halloween still resonates. It taps into something ancient in our psychology. Let me ask you this. Do you think Halloween is too commercial now? Has it lost its meaning, or does the meaning still shine through? I'm genuinely curious what you think. Leave a comment. We're almost at the end of our journey. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about why Halloween matters today and what it teaches us about being human. Chapter 9. Why we still need the dark. We've travelled a long way together. From African savannas 2 million years ago to modern cities lit up like daylight. From the first frightened humans huddling around fire to children trick-or-treating in superhero costumes. And now I want to talk about why Halloween still matters. Why we still need this ancient tradition in our modern, rational, scientific world. Here's the thing about modern life. We've eliminated most darkness. Streetlights glow all night. We carry flashlights in our pockets called phones. We heat our homes. We have endless entertainment to distract us. We've conquered the physical darkness our ancestors feared, but we haven't conquered the emotional darkness, the fear, the uncertainty, the awareness that life is fragile and temporary. Halloween reminds us of this. It's one night a year when we voluntarily turn down the lights, when we let darkness and mystery back into our carefully controlled lives. And paradoxically, this makes us feel more alive. Think about what Halloween does for us psychologically. It lets us play. As adults, we don't get many chances to pretend, to wear costumes, to become someone else for a night. But Halloween gives us permission. It lets us face fear in a safe context. We watch horror movies. We visit haunted houses. We deliberately scare ourselves. And when we survive it, when we come back to the light, we feel stronger. It brings communities together. Neighborhoods that barely speak to each other all year suddenly interact on Halloween. Children visit every house. Adults compliment costumes. There's a shared experience, a collective celebration. It reminds us of mortality. Halloween is one of the few times we openly acknowledge death. We put skeletons in our yards. We dress as ghosts. We tell stories about the departed. For one night, death isn't taboo. It's part of the celebration. And maybe most importantly, Halloween connects us to the past. When you carve a jack-o'-lantern, you're doing what people did thousands of years ago. When you wear a costume, you're continuing an ancient tradition. When you tell a ghost story, you're participating in humanity's oldest art form. You're part of a chain that stretches back unbroken to the first humans who sat around the first fire and wondered what waited in the darkness beyond. That connection matters. In our modern world, it's easy to feel disconnected from history, from nature, from the long story of humanity. Halloween is one of the threads that ties us to that story. Let me share something personal. When I was a kid, Halloween was my favourite holiday. Not because of the candy, though that was nice, but because it was the one night when the world felt magical, mysterious, alive with possibility. Walking through dark streets with friends, seeing jack-o'-lanterns glowing on porches, hearing distant laughter, feeling that slight nervousness mixed with excitement. It felt like I was part of something bigger, something ancient, like I was following in the footsteps of every child who had ever faced the dark and found wonder there instead of just fear. I still feel that way. Every October when the air gets crisp and leaves start falling, something shifts. The world feels more atmospheric, more meaningful, like the boundary between ordinary and extraordinary has gotten thinner. That's Halloween's gift. It makes us pay attention. It makes us notice the beauty in decay, the excitement in fear, the connection between past and present. Here's what I think our ancient ancestors understood that we sometimes forget. Darkness isn't the enemy. It's the contrast that makes light meaningful. Without night, day would lose its importance. Without death, life wouldn't be precious. Halloween is our annual reminder of this balance. It's a night when we honour both sides, the light and the dark, the living and the dead, the safe and the scary. And in doing that, we become more complete, more human, more connected to the full experience of being alive. So when Halloween comes this year, take a moment. Look at a flickering jack-o'-lantern. Think about all the people throughout history who've gathered around fires just like this one. All the people who've faced darkness and found meaning in it. You're connected to them. Their blood runs in your veins. Their stories live in your traditions. Their courage lives in your willingness to face the dark, even just playfully on one October night. That's the real magic of Halloween. Not supernatural magic, but the magic of continuity, of connection, of remembering who we are and where we came from. I want to ask you one more favour. If this video has meant something to you, if you've enjoyed this journey through time, share it. Send it to a friend who loves Halloween. Share it on social media. Help spread these stories about where our traditions come from, and subscribe if you haven't already. There are more stories like this one, more journeys into the origins of holidays and traditions, more chances to connect with the ancient humans who shaped our modern world. We have one more short chapter together, and it's all about you. Chapter 10, Your Halloween Story. So here we are, the end of our journey from the first fires to modern jack-o'-lanterns, from Homo erectus to horror movies, from Samhain to suburban trick-or-treating. But this isn't really the end. Because the story of Halloween isn't finished, it's still being written, every year, by you. Every time you carve a pumpkin, you're adding to the story. Every time you tell a ghost story, you're continuing the tradition. Every time you dress in a costume and step into the October night, you're walking a path millions of humans have walked before you. You're part of Halloween's living history. And that's what I want you to take away from this. Halloween isn't something that happened in the past. It's not just an ancient Celtic festival or a commercial American holiday. It's a continuing conversation between humans and darkness, between the living and the memory of those who came before. When you light a candle this Halloween, you're lighting the same flame that our ancestors lit. The details have changed. The candle might be in a pumpkin instead of a hollowed turnip, but the meaning is identical. You're creating light in darkness. You're marking space as safe. You're saying to the night, I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm not afraid. When you wear a costume, you're doing what shamans did tens of thousands of years ago. You're transforming. You're trying on another identity. You're playing with the boundary between who you are and who you might be. When you knock on a neighbour's door and they give you candy, you're participating in an exchange that goes back to feeding wandering spirits. The form has changed, but the generosity is the same. The connection is the same. And when you feel that slight thrill walking through dark streets on October 31st, that's ancient memory stirring. Your body remembers what it was like when darkness meant real danger. Your heart races just a little, your senses sharpen, but you're safe, surrounded by community, protected by the light, and that combination, the fear mixed with safety, is what makes Halloween magical. So what will you do this Halloween? Maybe you'll carve a jack-o'-lantern with family. Maybe you'll take your children trick-or-treating. Maybe you'll watch a horror movie with friends. Maybe you'll visit a cemetery and remember someone you've lost. Whatever you do, do it with awareness, with appreciation for the long history you're part of, with gratitude for all the humans who faced real darkness so that you could play with imaginary darkness. You're standing in a beam of light that stretches back 2 million years. From the first fire to your porch light. From the first story to the movie you'll watch tonight. From the first costume to whatever you'll wear this October. That beam of light is unbroken. It connects you to every human who ever wondered what waited in the darkness, every child who ever felt scared but brave, every community that ever gathered together against the night. You're part of that. You matter in that story. And maybe that's the deepest truth about Halloween. It's not about ghosts or candy or even fear. It's about continuity, about being part of something larger than yourself, about connecting with the long human story of facing darkness and finding meaning in it. So this Halloween, light your jack-o'-lantern, tell your stories, wear your costume, face the dark, and remember, you're doing what humans have always done. You're taking fear and turning it into beauty, taking darkness and filling it with light, taking the unknown and giving it names and faces and stories. You're keeping the fire burning. And as long as there's one human willing to light a candle against the dark, Halloween will never die. The story will continue. The tradition will survive, because Halloween isn't about the past. It's about us, right now, keeping the old magic alive in new ways. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Thank you for being part of Halloween's story. Thank you for keeping the fire burning. Happy Halloween, and may your light shine bright in the darkness. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment below with your favourite Halloween tradition. I read every comment and I love hearing your stories. Until next time, remember, the dark is not your enemy, it's your teacher. And Halloween is the night we celebrate everything it taught us. Good night and sweet dreams.